Hey guys, it's Jamie from Footsore Miniatures here, and I would like to welcome you to the second episode of Footsore Friday, a series where we look at basic painting and modelling techniques in order to get our forces on the table quickly. Today's episode will look at painting metallic in an easy method, and we will also touch on colour theory and forward thinking. I will be using the miniatures we prepped last week to show a couple of different ways of approaching chainmail. The Irish hero on the left has a warmer hue of chainmail, as I will be basing him on a snow base later in the series. The cold snow will look better next to a warm chainmail rather than a cold one, whilst the other hero has a cold chainmail coat in preparation for his summer basing. The horse's armour is painted in a very basic metallic, as later on in the series I will be rusting and dirtying it up. This is the element of forward thinking I mentioned earlier. A lot of the metal will be tinted or covered in a later video, so it is not worth spending too much time on. The Arab archer also has very little metal, which is not the focal point of the miniature, so I painted it in an extremely basic way. Now, to begin with, and this is my top tip when painting metallic, I base coat any metallic areas black. For this I use Vallejo Model Colours black, watered down slightly with some acrylic thinner. Silver metallic covers black extremely well and is shinier with black as an undercoat. This is because of the reflective and transparent nature of the paint. I also use this to base coat any areas that would be gold or copper, as silver will be the base coat for other metallic paints. I paint the metallic sections on these miniatures first for two reasons. Firstly, some of the metallic areas on the miniatures are hard to reach, and I will therefore risk getting paint onto other parts. Therefore it makes sense to do this first, so I do not mess up completed paintwork. Secondly, I like to use fresh water after using metallic paint, as I do not want to risk contaminating non-metallic paints with metallic flakes. Once the metal areas are base coated black, I cover these with Vallejo Model Air Gunmetal. Gunmetal is a nice believable metal colour, and I like to use the air variant of the metallic, as the metallic flakes are a lot finer than in other modelling paints. The air variant of metallics are also thinned to a nice consistency that will not obscure detail. If I were to thin a thicker metallic paint, I often find that the pigment separates from the medium. The metal, however, still has a very good covering ability. The next step is to shade the chainmail. In order to do this, we take an ink from Army Painter called Dark Tone. Inks flow into the recesses and tint the miniature. It will darken the recesses, and due to the medium of the ink, also slightly matte the metallic areas. This matting is to our advantage, as the highlights will retain their shininess and therefore create more contrast. Contrast is important in a small scale such as 28mm, where we want our miniatures to pop on the tabletop. This is doubly the case when painting miniatures quickly and simply. We want the details to pop without committing too much time. You can see here the difference between the non-washed axe head and the coat, which now has the individual links defined, and they have taken a darker, more matte tone. Now I pick out individual chain links using Vallejo Model Air steel. This bright colour will make the chainmail stand out on the tabletop. I use a small brush and take my time, although one can also dry brush this. I also add some satin medium to the steel. I use pure steel in some areas and some with satin medium in other areas. This creates differentials within the chainmail colour, where some areas will shine more than others. This creates more interest within the mail coat, and it is a quick way of adding an extra tone. Here you can see the difference between the highlighted mail coat and the washed one. I have already mentioned that I would like this Irish Hero's mail coat to have a warm tone, as warm colours look better next to cold colours. He will have a snow base, which is understandably very cold, and a miniature that is too cold can look not quite right. In order to add this warm tone, I take Army Painter's strung tone ink and apply it to the miniature. This wash is a dark brown and therefore tints the armour slightly brown. However, it is not too stark to change the colour, and just changes the temperature of the piece. One of the reasons for this second wash is also to unify the mail coat and tie the highlighting with the base coat. By applying the wash in a non-uniform method, I can also create contrast between cold and warm areas on the miniature. Here you can see the difference in temperature between the two pieces. The other Irish Hero is painted in the same way, but instead I use Army Painter dark tone for the final unifying wash. This maintains the coldness of the metal, which will contrast nicely against the warm brown groundwork of a summer base. The axe heads are understandably flat with less recesses than the mail coat. Therefore we cannot simply apply a wash, we have to be focused in its application. I apply it near the base of the axe, disturbing the pigment as it dries, so that it dries as a stain rather than pooling in one area. I take Vallejo Model Air steel and apply a final edge highlight to the axes in order to make them look sharp. As there is such little metallic areas on the Arab Archer, I felt that all that was needed was some strung tone ink on top of the gunmetal. When speed painting, this is an appropriate technique, especially as strung tone ink can be applied all over a miniature. Brown is a very good shading colour for most colours we use in wargaming. For the horse's armour, which will get covered later, I simply wash the gunmetal with dark tone ink before applying some highlights using gunmetal. The contrast between the matted inked areas and the metallic paint will do the work for us. Copper parts receive a coat of Vallejo Model Air copper. These will receive verdigris in a later video. Gold parts receive a coat of Vallejo Model Air Gold, which covers in one coat thanks to the silver base coat. Finally, both copper and gold parts receive a final wash with strung tone. On these figures, these areas are so small that I do not feel more is needed for the tabletop standard we are aiming to achieve. I really hope you have enjoyed this video, and please feel free to leave any comments, suggestions or queries below. I hope you will join me next week when we look at how to paint easy Caucasian flesh. All minis will be linked in the description below, and if you enjoy these videos, please remember to like, comment and subscribe.
Hear ye, hear ye. Footsore Miniatures, 28mm historical miniatures. Footsore takes pride in the highest quality metal models, available in the UK, US and worldwide. Footsore believes in delivering high quality products. Find out more at footsoreminiatures.co.uk.